I'm finishing up Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd, and I want the drums to, let me see if I can find a place for this. Let me see here, I'll probably pick it up too. That's in my way. Damn thing. What the deal is that, well, there's a lot of stuff here. On this one, you know, when the drums come in, it needs to be massive, but not overpower the entire song. And also, boy, you fell off there. I want to fix you, goddamn tripod. I tell you that. I'll tell you what. But also, you know, there's really one most musical setting. Like when the drums come in here, I'm messing with the compression, the release. A lot of the classic stuff, especially drums, relies on the release and the compression. So. When that comes in, it's not it's not pop, 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 pop. It's down, boom, down, boom, boom. And from the way that you set the release on the compression, you'll get the right musical figure or not. And there's one most musical setting. You know, I used to think there were many possible settings, but that's just complete bullshit. I don't know how anybody's an engineer who's not also a musician that plays many instruments. I get pissy about it, but there's so many fucking hacks in the world that fuck you up while you're producing shit who think they're engineers, especially fucking assistants. And you have to sort of feed them a bone or be cool with them. So, I mean, in the end, I just said, look, man, let's be clear up top. You're an assistant. Set the stuff up. Keep out of my way. I tried to be nice. Anyway, they sabotage you, and they want to be you when they've had 2 weeks of school and 10 minutes of practice. Anyway, getting pissy. So this musical figure, I'm working the compression. Every inch of every song has to be worked, every instrument. And do you think you can tell? And do you think you can tell? It's down, down, down. It carries out like that. The wrong release on the compression is just blat, 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 blat. So. And do you think you can tell? Down, down, down. It's a completely different musical figure. I've been at this for a couple days now. It's like day 3 on this. The first of this one, you know, this is when you're messing with classic songs. I mean, you can't make too much out of it, first of all. If I were to really say, oh, I'm going to faithfully reproduce Pink Floyd, and yeah, I could, and nobody would be able to tell, blah, blah, but I don't want to faithfully reproduce it. I want to change and get the soul, the gestalt of the song, the spirit of it. And then that doesn't really matter how it's represented all that much. As long as that spirit's faithfully represented, everybody will go, that's kick-ass. But if you don't get the spirit of it, so anyway, it's just not cool. So at the first of this, you know, I mean, first of all, dynamics. The guitar is a telephone EQ on the original, stripped, and it's very bare, so you want it more. And this is what I did. I changed it to grand piano. And I stripped that. Now the thing with this is because it's stripped, you want more of this musical figure. It's so beautiful, you know, and you reach for the volume knob to turn it up. Like, that's excellent. And then the lead riff is just such a perfect, simple little blues riff. It's inviting too. I decided to strip that too. These are more of an homage to the music, not the bands, but the music. that just putting the idea there doesn't have to be right in your face. People understand, oh, this is that thing that I've loved all my life, you know. And I'm not trying to reproduce it. I can. I've been accused of duplicating Pink Floyd, you know, and my own sound. And instead, I'd rather bring something new to it. But when it comes in, see, you have your volume up, then broad spectrum all of a sudden.
So you think you can take heaven from here and blue skies from pale? Can you tell I can't feel no cold steel rain? A smile from a veil. And do you think you can tell? Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, hot air for cool breeze?
The other thing you'll notice if you mix a lot is that if you move your ears back, low end needs, I've said it before, I'll say it again, sound has a physical length, so as I move back it sounds like there's more bass. You would actually I would have to be 11.3 feet away from this to hear 100 hertz. The signal 100 hertz around bass, let's just call that good punchy bass, across all the instruments. You would have to be 11.3 feet away for the sound to be fully developed, and then you start hearing it. So at this close range, and I have really expensive speakers. I'm using a 2.1 Altec, just $39 system. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're mixing, the thing that I would tell people is, first of all, this is a lifetime of experience and failures involved, you know, epic fails. But I would also say, listen to Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here on those speakers, whatever speakers you have, and you know, listen to something that sounds great on your speakers that you want your music to sound like, and just make it your music sound as great as the music coming out of your speakers. I know engineers that are world famous that carry around a little fucking pair of speakers and it's the magic. That's all bullshit. You need to be able to adjust to any room at any time, and I used to do that too. I had, you know, 3 sets of speakers that went in road cases everywhere with me. Kind of a good idea, you know, kind of ridiculous and unnecessary and stupid. I understand it. I did it. You can get beyond all that now. It's when you're starting out, especially your first 20 years, you'll want accurate monitors. It's mostly important that you know the speakers that you work with all the time. You know what every single pop song, every single classic song, every single classical song sounds like coming out of your speakers, so that when you hear something funky, you catch it. So it's weird, you know. The universe sent me signals. I should finish this. I was gonna blow it off, and it's windy out today, and I was looking for a wind sample, and this was well, it is what it is. This first part should barely even be there, you know. And is there anything more sort of, I don't know, I used to walk around my neighborhood and there was a woman that they said it used to be a classical pianist that went mad, and I would hear her playing on a slightly out of tune stand-up piano down the street, and that reverb was just so haunting. It's like somebody once said, and see, that's the thing about music. It's important. How can I say? A lot of times it's not the machinery, the guitar, the piano, the computer, the backing tracking, and it's the spirit of the person performing the music. Even if it's poorly performed, but they have that spirit 100%. Somebody said, a child singing out of tune with all her heart is, the most touching thing, and there's something to be said for that. So there's my wind just went outside. If you're mixing, by the way, the best trick in the business, keep your volume down. When you're getting proportions, keep the volume down. Make sure you can clearly hear everything. I just want to hear my drums come in like a symphony of drums, But they can't be too much. It's simple. Just this 3 hits. It's not that, it's dung, that, dung. It pulls off. A lot like you're playing timpanis, you pull off. It's pulling off of it. I don't know how it's frustrating when you work in the business, is what I was saying earlier, because, every person who thinks, well, I want to work in the business, but I can't play anything, I can't sing, and I don't have any musical talent. I'll engineer every single setting on here, from EQ to compression to effects, has a most musical setting, and the rest is, to me, just complete bullshit. I used to think that any was acceptable, and I'm repeating myself, but it's frustrating to have to deal with somebody, all kinds of people who want to do what you do, production and engineering. I have friends that call themselves producers that can't really play anything, don't really have any skills, training, or natural ability, and they put the word producer in front of their stuff, and so that's frustrating. So I'm good with this. I'm gonna mix it. I know what I want for a video. I did that ice cream video, Sarah McLachlan ice cream. It's kind of a joke, but there is something compelling. You do forget completely. It's almost magical. You forget completely about the song, and it becomes sort of this thing. I was sort of making a sardonic, smart-ass sort of statement about love with that. In other words, ice cream may not be so good for you. A couple kids get killed. Or no, they don't get killed, they escape. But it's a cartoon about an axe murderer. But I like the look of the cartoon. But it does not fit the video at all. So that's what I'm doing, And with these classics, you just can't make too much of them. You have to do it, put it out there, put your slant on it, and leave it alone, I could spend 6 months trying to do something, and people will still, if you put your soul into it, then people will respond to it, is what I found. And they respond mostly, believe it or not. I could sing this backwards. I've sang this a million times, played every part, keyboards, bass guitar, drums, this little lead lick. Instead of featuring it, just leave it there in the background, make you want it, And what do? You hit the volume, and that's...
So you think you can take heaven from here and blue skies from here? Can you tell, can you feel? No cold steel rain.
the me working on this will be longer than the video itself. At the end, those I decided to leave those off because they seem sort of unnecessary. Plus, by having the instruments play that, it feels more like an homage, and it's not an homage to Pink Floyd, it's an homage to the song and what a big part of my life it has been. So, but I was going to do that on my cover of The Scientist Coldplay at the end, but those final vocal notes really they put a punctuation, an exclamation mark on the song that doesn't work as big. But I felt like those were unnecessary, and instruments do them. So, also, I let the vocal be a little bit mid-range by about a couple dB, because it needs to kind of sound like it's present and a little bit ragey, out of control. So I am going to bounce this out. And by the way, if you work in a sequencing program, I save every session, which is not very big in storage size, so that I can look back and call up this exact same mix again. Because how many times have you, if you work on music a lot, this happens. I'm going to finalize this. No normalization, 48K, interleave, 24-bit, overload, protection only. And even then, knock that back. But how many times have you listened to a mix and you did like the most magical, perfect mix, except there's a bone dry bullshit guitar that blares in way too loud at the end that destroys the whole thing, and or there's something wrong with it. So with the technology, there's no reason with the technology the way it is nowadays to not have a perfect mix every time, because you can over a period of time listen to your final mixes and then pull that set, and go, oh man, a little bit less mid-range on the vocal, a little bit more definition on the bass guitar would make that a perfect mix. And I name every one of my final mixes the stereo file. There's no excuse for not doing this. I didn't do it for the first 20 tunes I did. Now I do. Plus I'm saving them all for 5.1 and 7.1 surround mixes, which are all ready to go. But in this day and age, there's no excuse to not save the session of whatever application you're working in. That's just a map to the big files, the audio files, and name that session the same, have a matching stereo mix. There's that wind again. It kept blowing up today at the most magical times. So yeah, whatever happens with this, you have to let go of these things. This is the last time I'll ever play Wish You Were Here. And I love it, but thank God in a way. I mean, it's so beaten and so cliche and so, but it's beautiful too. But anyway, I think that you can't make too much out of these things. You just have to do it. And that's what in music, I mean, Led Zeppelin and all these magical recordings, and Pink Floyd and The Who, and all these bands that have these recordings everybody loves. In the business, when you're in a studio, it's like, did Roger Waters make this breath and this decision here because it was artistic? No, probably not. He was wanting to get the job done and get out of there and get the best product he could get. There was no thought. There's no thought in a lot of this stuff. People constantly overthink it. So I think that's it. How long have I gone? That's bouncing out. 19. But somebody left on when the levee breaks, some black girl with buckwheat hair left. You did not write this here. This here is Beastie Boys music. I think the Beastie Boys sampled Levee Breaks and did a rap to it. I like Beastie Boys actually, but I wasn't even aware of that. She's not. I left that there because it's curious. Somebody did reply to it. That's what reminded me and said no, but he didn't even say, oh no, this was written by Son House in the 20s or some shit. It was some kid too who didn't realize that Led Zeppelin stole that from some blues guys and then updated it for their time. And I left that one there just to see, because she was like, you did not write this here. This here's the Beastie Boys. And I'm like, No, it goes all the way back. I used to know all about it, and all the blues, Robert Johnson, everything. So anyway, stuff. I'm tired, but you can't make too much out of these things. This vlog has been, what is it? Poltergeist ending. This vlog is clear.